Welcome to Moxie Uncut. I'm your host, Jenny Nuccio, social entrepreneur, designer, innovator, and founder of Amani Collective. This season is all about reset. Real stories, the ones that don't make it into the captions. Failure, pivots, burnouts, heartbreaks, and the quiet courage to just begin again. Each week, I sit down with entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers that are building with purpose. We talk about the resets that shaped them, the lessons that they learned the hard way, and the strength that found them on the other side. If you're in a season of rebuilding or redesigning, you're not alone. You're right where you need to be. So let's dig in. Welcome to Moxie Uncut, the reset season. This season is all about the rebuild, the pivot, the restructuring, and the internal shifts that change how you lead, how you build, and sometimes even who you are. Reset is not failure. It is refinement. It is recalibration, and it's rebuilding with wisdom. Here we talk about real stories, the pressure, the lessons, the resilience, and the strength that comes on the other side. So welcome to Moxie, and I am thrilled to have Dan back here on the podcast. Every time I'm like, we'll make sure in the show notes that that we link old episodes, but I think that you were in season 1.
Yes.
So Moxie has been going on for 7 years.
Wow.
So this was in 2019.
Yeah.
And I was describing this with someone earlier that we literally were sitting in a small room in my house. It was just audio.
Yes.
You could hear my neighbors probably screaming in the background and tuk-tuks. And we were sweating very much so because it was so hot.
Yes.
So we've come far. Far.
It's been some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to start, before we get into you introducing yourself, we actually have a thing called the quick cut. So I'm going to ask you 5 quick questions. Are you ready for it?
Yep. Let's go.
Okay. Morning person or night builder?
Morning person anytime.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Big vision or detailed executor?
Both.
Risk taker or calculated?
Calculated risk.
You are not the first person who said this. You guys are very clever saying both, calculated risk. Okay, I'm seeing this. What's one small habit that keeps you grounded? Good. And last one. What's one word that people use to describe you?
One word that people use to describe me.
I know it depends on the person.
Yeah, but I think people think I'm too serious, and I am not. So they miss it.
My husband gets that misconception too. And you actually are like quite funny and clever.
Yep.
Yes. And then when people see that personality, they're like, wait, I thought you were like all business. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Well, hopefully they get to see some of that today. He's not so serious. He is serious, but also funny. You can do serious things. We do serious things. Yes. We build businesses, do great things, and then we
I think also depends on the context, because especially people who meet me on the business aspect, they take that home, and every time they keep on meeting in that context.
Yeah.
So they hardly meet me within circles of my friends, places I hang out. Yeah, and fun, easy spaces.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why some people judge me like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they see you across the room and might be intimidated by you. They don't even approach you. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I can feel that. I understand that. Okay. So for people who haven't listened to your past episodes and don't know who you are, what are you best known for? How about you introduce yourself?
My name is Dan Mugami. I am a business person. Let me say I'm an entrepreneur in the construction industry. Mm-hmm. I run an interior design, architecture, construction, and manufacturing firm. So in construction, of course, the fact that we do architecture, we do design and build. So whereby we come up with projects and do the actual construction. Then we also into production for construction industry. So we have a factory where we make items consumed in the built environment. So we custom make a lot of stuff, from kitchen to doors to frames to anything that we draw in our projects. Then we do the customization in terms of the building them. Then I also diversified at some point to logistics. So I have trailers, trucks, 30-ton trucks for carrying ballast for these guys who are constructing roads across the country. So yeah, so I'm more of an entrepreneur than a professional in architecture. Yes. Yes.
But you started with design. And so, man, we should have listened together the first podcast, because I think it's so beautiful to see someone and an individual who is an entrepreneur, creative, like a vision, like or visionary and detailed person, and to see their journey. So I want to talk about that diversification, because that is a pivot. That's kind of a reset, I feel like, in a reset moment. And because that's our theme of this season, what got you to saying, okay, we need to diversify, we need to change, or I want to do this? What was happening in your mind? Maybe the conversations that came before and made you step into the logistics industry?
Logistics industry specifically was an opportunity I got from, I play golf, and sometimes you interact with people who are, well placed in some organizations. So I played with someone who, was telling me they needed more units to ferry some of the construction materials. And I asked him, where can I plug in? So he asked me, do you have trucks? Yeah, I have trucks, but I didn't have that size that he wanted. So I told him, but I can get, how many do you want? So that's how it started. Then I did my calculation in terms of the risk involved, the amount of money I need to invest in, how the ROI, when it should come back, on if or it will come back at any point, where all the risks involved in actually getting into the business that I don't understand very well. And also there were so many discouragements from people who have done it before. Then that one, I use it for specifically reorganizing how I could do it better. Because sometimes people fail because of their own reasons. People fail because of reasons that are not involved with your current situations. So it's important that I had to rethink of their failures and how do I use that learning experience to plug better. And that's exactly what I did. We got proper backing. It was initial units were quite hard to put together because, the bank I'm also a person who has grown the business without a lot of loans from the banks. So I didn't have a lot of credit score. And then, I didn't have some good credit score because I wasn't borrowing. So
was that difficult for you?
It was difficult.
Yeah.
Because you see, the bank can see you have very
absolutely. Yeah.
Your cash flow is very good, but you've never demonstrated that you can borrow and return money.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you see, that's already a problem. As much as you don't have any debts out there and you don't have issues of not paying people's borrowed monies. You showing that you can consistently pay month without a problem needs to be shown by a system. Yeah. And I did not have that system before. So, but, again, being in a golf situation also enables you to meet different kind of people, also bankers, head of departments and all that. So I was able to put some few people together and help me, get an easier time of approval, which I did. And that's how we first got launched into it. And then we were needed to, even there's some favors that were done. For example, for one unit, they'll need you to, like a prime mover, they'll need you to do a 20% deposit. Then they do 80%. Then I sought some favors that I was able to do 10% instead of 20%. And then that enabled me with the hard cash that I had to invest in more units rather than just one that I could afford. Yeah, so that was necessary for us, especially for the revenue streams. When in construction industry, you also somehow, sometimes, especially as you're building the name, you are reliant on people calling you, I would say, using that word, especially because of referrals. So sometimes, especially in a more challenging environment, when sometimes economics don't work well for everyone. So sometimes you also find your clients struggling, your current clients struggling, putting together things. Then it means that if you're reliant on that only as a revenue stream, and the environment itself is a bit competitive. And when 2-3 clients are struggling, so then it multiplies to other people who maybe you have never met. So even new business coming in that line, sometimes it's quite difficult. So diversification for me was quite important. Yeah. And then also, I also wanted a line that can work independently without my influence. Because I don't necessarily have to be there to do this business. I don't necessarily have to really understand it 100%, but I need to understand it somehow so that, no one can maybe cheat on me or steal, because there are stories of people siphoning fuels and all those things. So I had to avast myself with some, small basics of understanding of how things work, then get a good manager for the fleet. That was quite crucial and train them for my ethics, the things I stand for, the things I do, the way I do business, and then work with them, make sure that they understand exactly how I want my things done. Then the rest is now pushing for more business, expanding. As we speak, even last week I was trying to get some more opportunities through the new corridors that are happening around the port. So you see, it begins with one spark. Then all of a sudden now people know, then opportunities come, then keep on broadening.
Yeah. I want to talk about like the core of what you're passionate about, because I find that, well, one, I'm just fascinated. First of all, someone was like, I need trucks. You're like, I don't have them, but I'm going to get them. And this is going to happen. That's such an entrepreneur. Because I think about other people I've had conversations with, and they'd be like, that's absolutely crazy, but we do crazy things. And sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. But I want to talk about the core of what you're passionate about, because it is a little different industry. So what is the linkage, right? You have logistics, you have design, but what's the linkage of what gets you up in the morning and says, like, I'm going to keep going? Or there are spaces, that's maybe not your biggest passion, but you've put people in place that you trust to run it. Maybe that might be it too, but curious in how because as an entrepreneur in scaling, it's like, we want growth, and we might not like everything that we do, but maybe what's that core value or that core passion that drives you every day?
Let me say everything started as an artist. Back in high school, I was starting to understand my creative side. So the creativity comes in different aspects. And one of the aspects that creativity brings is also trying out new things. If you're an artist, let's say canvas artist, you find nice murals or draw paintings. There is always a way that each experience or each canvas that you want to do gives you a different exposure and a different angle of how you want to do it different from the other. And art is inspirational. So sometimes you put up a canvas and you start your work, start the sketches. Just even as you develop the artwork, then you start. By the time you finish whatever you started with, or the initial mindset towards the direction you are going, sometimes it totally takes a different direction. And by the time the canvas painting is done, you are totally different vision from whatever you started. So now bring that character or that inspiration into the fact that now I was able to fuse my talent, which is an artist, into entrepreneurship. Because those are two different things, by the way. Then using art as an entrepreneurship measure and as an avenue into penetrating into the market. So I had to identify some of the things that I really wanted to do professionally first. So when transitioning from high school, that's when I applied to become an architect. Those people who listen to season 1 would tell that, it was not very easy during that period, and I won't repeat that. But transitioning to school from a place where finances were problems and all that, then my journey was slower than I thought it would be. Then I got opportunities now to start with interior design. So I got trained interior design first. And I did, free courses, a diploma, degree, transitioned into architecture. And, now all of a sudden, at some point, actually, that's the reason why this for me makes a lot of sense, because Reset, then when I was in the initial stages of my business, I was printing t-shirts.
That's right.
That was my main business, actually, for quite a while, for 3 to 4 years. And I became very good at it. And I became very famous even across the country, because I was making t-shirts for even artists and different, celebrities. So that one made me quite famous. And then someone would think then you can't leave that, but I had to leave it. Because I thought that I wanted something that I can wake up, go do something else that I am not worried that I keep on being myself present. Things that I don't have to do on a regular basis as Dan Mugami. I wanted a thing that I can grow to bigger, get more teams. So when you look at that industry, it is very difficult to expand unless you're doing shops, so even the expansion line is very limited. So after I got married, I switched, and the switch was quite random, and it was brave, I would call it, because I have a family, and then I decide from today, my current revenue stream is dying.
Yeah. What did your wife say about that?
By the way, she was jobless. Now I'm the provider. And I've told her, we set a date. We said, I don't remember how, the period that we had given ourselves.
Yeah.
But we set a date and we say, let's say July 1st, we are stopping. And, she thought I was joking. And, she was asking, how do we? So, and of course, you can't do some things foolishly as well. So we did some good savings here and there.
Yeah.
We made sure that we have essentials, rents, and all those things put together. And also before I brought it into a stop, then I was also trying to penetrate into the new industry I was getting myself into. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to get clientele in the design industry, get some places to design, get someone to give you a project to do. It was quite a slow thing. I didn't even have a shop or an office or anything. I was just transitioning from something else that is totally different. So my wife was quite worried. Mm-hmm. But again, we are two of us. It's a family, yes, but we were just like 1 year into marriage, and we could survive, I would say. And we didn't hustle, by the way. Somehow God worked and things just fell in place. By the time, so I went to Nigeria at some point for training. I participated in a certain entrepreneurship competition.
Okay.
By a Nigerian tycoon called Tony Elumelu. So it's called TEF.
I was about to say, is it TEF?
Yes, TEF. Cool. So I went to Nigeria.
Okay.
And then came back now more equipped, more in terms of especially knowledge, business knowledge, concepts, vision, so many things, strategies.
Yeah.
And I was quite equipped. So by the time I came back, I got a shop somewhere within the location that I live in, but I didn't have money to set it up, so I closed it for like 4 months. But I was paying for it rent. So that's how now I grew slowly, transitions from wherever I had now to whatever I was getting myself into. And to the reason I was trying to bring some history into before now I actually answer the actual question is because before someone gets context of that reset, there has to be a story before, because what are you resetting yourself from?
Yeah.
So then as an artist, I keep on finding myself free from fear somehow. I don't know which word to use there, but sometimes I don't count fear as part of the things that should stop me from exploring. Mm. So let me count other things. Let me have, like, for example, I was talking about trucks. Let me have things like financial capital. Let me have things that are realistic. Like, for example, I want to do a business that I want to do engineering and I'm not a trained engineer, such things. But fear, no. Mm-hmm. So every time I think of resetting, every time I think of growing into trying to metamorphosis into something that I am into another, I work on the idea itself first, develop the idea. What do I need? Who do I need? Then can I start small? Because that's where many people fail. Many people will want to open something, an entrepreneurial thing like a salon, a shop, a barber shop, whatever. Then they go big at once. Mm-hmm. There's a danger in that because you are not giving yourself time to learn the ropes of the business. And sometimes it's not even the ropes of the entire business, but the context that you're getting the business into. For example, we live in Mombasa. Mombasa is quite a mixed culture.
Yep.
There's dominant cultures like Islamic culture, the Swahili culture, and then now the fact that we also have a lot of people from different parts of this country who are not necessarily Islamic. They also bring their own culture. So all these things play a big part when it comes to a decision of a business that you're opening in a specific place.
Yeah.
Because the impact will be dependent on how it is accepted. So that is actually social capital. So then if you use your social capital properly, you can't, if for example, I want to open a pub or a nightclub, there's a mosque next to me. It will not survive for long.
Yeah.
You can do everything, set up and do these things and you will have customers for the first few days or so, but it will be fought. Mm-hmm. And you would have seen it way earlier even before you set up, but you ignore some of those red lights.
Yeah.
So sometimes context matters. But the most important for me has always been, what is the bigger picture?
Yeah.
And then now I am in a place whereby I have made so many mistakes that I feel like mistakes are part of the process of becoming.
Yep.
Even at this level, I keep on making mistakes. So when I am afraid of making a mistake in terms of when I want to venture into something else, then I am lying to my consciousness, because I've already accepted that mistakes make or shape whoever I am today on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, so maybe I've tried to answer your question from that angle, but that's how I think.
No, you did great. I think, mistakes is definitely about our becoming. I think it's how we handle it. We handle it with a little bit more grace as we mature and become different leaders over time. I can think of being younger and something would happen or failure would happen, and it can ruin our whole day, or it's an emotional disarray. So I think as we grow, that that changes. I love that you said, though, you pivoted, you resetted in a moment of a high point, like success. I mentioned to people that reset isn't necessarily like you're in a valley and it's like, oh shoot, like I need to find something else to do. No, reset can happen in a moment like that. That's like, oh no, I want to change. I want to use my creative talent in a different way. I want my time to be utilized differently. And how can I start exploring another way? So I love that you mentioned that. I also want to ask you, like, when you look back and reflect, what are some closed doors that happened to you? Maybe one stands out more than the other that you reflect now and you're like, thank God that happened.
I remember back then when I was in the t-shirt industry, I wanted to put up a station to make my own t-shirts. So I researched on how I can import fabric from China and many other countries. I checked several Asian countries, and the machines I needed, the personnel, the skills. I put together quite a nice business plan. That I felt it was, the best business plan ever. Then that time there was something the government was running that was called Youth Fund. And I approached the office.
We're not youth anymore.
I was. Yeah, I'm no longer youth.
I know, we've passed that.
But that was when I was around 25.
Yeah.
So I approached the Mombasa office. And, I laid down my business plan, my projected revenue streams, everything that, anyone would ask. And I actually made sure that I make every point that I knew the question would come through before they asked the question, just so that actually to mix them up and they approve whatever I was asking.
You anticipated.
Unfortunately, after this guy listened to me for quite a while, then he told me, Mugambi, I liked your business plan. I can see your bank statement doesn't have a lot of money, but I can see there is a flow of things happening here and there. But you're in the wrong place. Meaning, go back to your rural area, and that is the best place, because here we are, in his words, we are focusing on the locals. Yep. So that was quite disheartening. But for me, it was a big blow, because you see, sometimes when you put together such a plan, it means also you've put a lot of time, so much hope, and excitement starting kicking in, because when people will give you reviews, this is a done deal.
Yeah.
So it was a big heartbreaker. But looking at the reasons, or the fact that it never happened positively, I would have been stuck with a factory that I no longer enjoy working at. Because maybe I could have sold the business after success, maybe, I don't know. But that aspect of it not happening, it sent me to the current world that I am in. I was able to move away from that. But I think if that was successful, maybe I would still be stuck there, doing the same things. So something else is, my school life has been an interesting story. I have gone through school in a very unconventional ways.
Yeah.
And in that, I have blamed figures in my life who were supposed to be present that were never present. And there's a time I used to struggle with so much anger and hatred and, feeling, you needed to be there for me to be able to afford some things, to be able to go through school like other kids. And, I was drowning in it over and over and over until at some point I came to accept that now I've grown and I need to make decisions now to move to the future rather than talk about the past, think about the past, dwell in the past. So then someone else brought a perspective. What if you got through school the right way? You went through university the right way. Not the right way per se. I went through university, yes, but my ways were different. I didn't have the privilege to be like, to move into life stages like normal kids. Mine was quite disrupted. But someone told me, what if all those things went through? Do you think the same resilience that you've built over time because of so many hurdles, do you think you will still have the same?
Exactly.
And the possibilities are no.
Exactly.
I don't think I'll be whoever I am today because the redefining, the resetting, everything that has happened in terms of trying to become a better person and a better business person has been because sometimes there's a scare that I don't want to be poor. I'm sorry to use that word, but sometimes you dream, and I dream back when I was back in high school, and we wake up very confused, very afraid. It's like a moment that you really don't want to experience again.
Yeah.
So due to that, and due to the fact that you want now success to be part of your story, there is no way I can attribute that if I had, simple, easy steps into life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think in those stories, they shape us the most. They also make us, like you're saying, the resiliency. They make us adaptable. I look at even just a very pivotal reset moment when my parents got divorced and I was 15 and life was peachy before then. And then I asked myself, and I look back and I'm like, well, if that didn't happen and a lot of intense things happened after that, I don't think I'd be sitting here.
Yes.
Your life is shaped by those circumstances. Everything does happen in a way. And God is really he has provision for us and provides at the time that we need it. Sometimes it might not be as quick as we would love it, or the opportunities, but those closed doors are just as important to reflect on as the open doors.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we forget that. Or if people are listening and they're in that moment right now and have just had a closed door, like to not be discouraged because there's a redirect that will happen. How do you find, just in your life right now, how would you define reset? What does that mean for you?
My current situation is even more scary than my past.
We take bigger risk.
Yes. Let me tell you, several things are happening now that sometimes, the more you grow, the more responsibilities you have.
For sure.
There's a time in my life I couldn't afford paying one employee, just one guy. And it was quite terrible. And I was paying him, some figures that are so little, but still I wouldn't afford pay that person.
Yep.
Now, my organization runs a minimum of 150 a monthly people. And the reason I'm saying runs is because we also have casuals.
Yeah.
And these casuals, they are casuals per se, but most of the times because of different projects and regular projects, you keep on finding yourselves hanging around with them year in, year out. So there are many people we also absorbed as permanent. But when I look at the people that I lead and my team of 100 plus, I get scared for their future and my future, because sometimes I make mistakes and I feel this mistake is too costly.
Yeah, we have livelihoods.
Yes,
we have to consider. Yeah,
and I have adults.
Keeps us up at night.
I have adults who are way older than me, who have families that are dependent on this, and sometimes I look at this and I wonder, how did it happen? We can explain, but sometimes it just sounds like a miracle, honestly. Then expansion is happening as we speak. So our factory is rented. The facility that we use is rented. And there has been so many disturbances around the place that we are at. The place is oversubscribed. So there are godowns, there are different shops where the landlords have accepted many more people than and built, not a planned kind of an area. So it's an enclosed space, but in between now they have kept, mushrooming small things. So what happens, there are so many trucks within, their parking situation becomes difficult. Then because of also building without proper planning, sometimes when it rains, flooding, it's just messy, Secondly, there are revenue streams that we want to tap into that we cannot do because our space is not allowing us to add more machinery. So we are exploring options of getting more machines to do some few things, but we can't do it in the current space that we are at. So we have been forced to look for space. So sometimes last year, but I was looking for an on-compound house, like an acre, a house in an acre, put up a shade, a huge shade, put my machines there, and then use the main house as offices, then move all my stuff into one location. But many spaces we are getting were not ideal. Some which were ideal, people were, especially the landlords, were skeptical when they hear a workshop, neighbors, complaints. They were thinking bigger than, they were more scared in accepting me because they thought maybe the neighbors will start complaining, and then also demobilization is also too expensive because now you're handling so many machines, there's forklifting and all those things. So with all that hassle, I couldn't get anyone. So as I was, like, if I need a space, I'll share with my friends. I'll ask Jenny, do you know someone? Do you know someone? Do you know someone? So a golfer friend of mine gave me an option. He has land somewhere within my location nearly. And he told me, I have an acre. I can get you 50 by 100. Then you develop and pay me. And I told him 50 by 100, it's too small for me. I need a quarter. We agreed.
Be able to grow.
Yep. We agreed at a quarter. He gave me a crazy price. Okay, no, he gave me a price and then I gave him an offer.
At least I'm happy I'm not the only one that gets crazy prices. You're getting crazy.
Yes, I get crazy prices. I gave him an offer. Sometimes I've also learned in this journey of being an entrepreneur, don't say no for people.
Yeah.
Just ask. Let them tell you no.
Yes, just ask.
Yeah, just ask. So the guy, to give you context, currently in Kenyan shillings, 50 by 100 in the location that I got the plot, 50 by 100 is 15 million. A quarter will be 30 million. So a good discount will be around 20 something, 28 or that. So I pushed the guy and he was willing to do both within the same price of one.
Okay.
And I was like, aha. Actually, by the time I was pushing, I didn't even have the money. I don't have the money.
I know.
What I'm saying,
ask me for. Yes.
I will sort out how I'll get the 15M. It's not a big deal. But let me get the ES first. Let me get an avenue now to start this.
Yes.
So to cut the whole story short, we got the space. Now we are developing the space. Developing the space as we are developing other spaces for people is very challenging because where do we put the focus?
Yeah, it's true. What's your priority?
Yes. What are my priorities? My priorities are my clients.
Yeah.
So I can't defraud them the time that I need to, because you see, that's my main business.
Yeah.
This other one is a dead capital I'm investing in.
Yeah.
It's a capital for enabling business, but it is dead because literally there is no returns from investing in a godown. But the returns are indirect. It will give us a better space to work, a bigger space to dream, so many other things. So I can't, as much as I need to put a lot of time and money into it, I also have to put a proper balance. Then I have employees. I have end months that come much faster than any other thing in this life.
Well, February is also a short month. We're missing 3 days.
Sometimes I pray like, God, you add some few days in between Monday and Wednesday. Because January, by the time I'm done with bills and salaries.
Oh, I could just so relate to this.
Another cycle has.
I know.
So for me, putting those things together and now keeping on dreaming is a very scary kind of a balance.
It is.
And that's where I am at the moment.
It is. I think we're in very similar spaces. I was going to ask what are you excited you're building right now? And you just answered that. But I think we're in very similar spaces where it's like you always want to continue to dream and grow, and yet there has to be stability and there has to be that, and you have to meet sales goals, and there's all these things. And so I love that you mentioned that, and thank you for being vulnerable and transparent. And every time you sit in this seat, I'm like, we should just have a business podcast together because we could talk about so much. But I love that you mentioned that, because people who maybe are in the start of their journey need to understand this as entrepreneurs, that you will always have tough spots, because if you're an entrepreneur, you're always visioning and maximizing of what's next and what's better and what's good. And so if you're going to step into, if you're in the very beginning stages and you're going to step into this, please hear from 10 plus 13, 14, whatever years or more in our background, that it will always be a continuous journey of growth and stretching and whatnot. As we end our time together, because like I said, we could continue for many hours, I would love for you to what is one just piece of advice you could give someone who is maybe feels two different things: stagnant, right, in a low moment and feels like they need to reset, or similar to you, that is in this mountaintop type moment, but just feels things need to change. What's some advice you could give them to take steps forward to reset?
It depends with the context, but especially if the person is in business, I always tell my team and even my fellow entrepreneurs that never let go of the grip. The grip that controls the whole thing that you call your enterprise needs to remain with you until you hand it over to someone else, assuming you're doing a transition, like you're employing, whether if it's family taking over or wherever. And the reason I'm saying that is because sometimes people grow and feel now, like, for example, I've seen in golfers, whereby now they want just to enjoy golf, nothing else, travel and just play golf. But things will crumble because some of these business aspects that you have endured to make what you have now were so personal. Some of them were experiences that you can't teach, or maybe they can take a lot of time to teach. Yes, but if someone is stuck, and that's another context now. When you are stuck and you're trying to have some things happen in your life, business setup, whether it's personal life and all that, and they're not happening, it's because sometimes I think, people set goals, and we are told to set goals, visions and all those things. But people sometimes overdream in a place which you need simplicity. Dreaming is good. But what are the stages? You see, the fact that even going to first floor and second floor, as an architect, I'll tell you, averagely you have 10 steps. Those are 20 steps. So it means there is always a step to the next. And you take the first step, you're not on first floor yet until you finish the 20. Because you have to the first 10, you do a landing, and then the 20. Even dreams and achievements can be in small wins. Small wins are very important for encouragement and for learning. When we opened our factory back in 2020, then immediately we were hit by COVID. Secondly, we needed, I'll divert kidogo, but we needed like 25 to 30 million Kenya shillings to put up the machines that we needed to start with. Most of these machines were European made. I didn't have that money. And then reasoning came. One machine, it will serve you for 7 years, for example, and it's worth 10 million. There's a Chinese machine here that is being promised to serve you for 3-4 years without problems, and then now you can service it here and there. So my question was, and it's, let's say 700,000. Do I invest in one machine that is worth 110 million, or use the 10 million to invest in 5 machines? Let them take the 3 years breakdown. I still buy more with money that will not have, if in comparison, 10 million. By the time I buy 10 machines worth 10 million from China, I'll have bought 10 machines. And if this one machine is giving me 3 years, that's 30 years. So it's perfect. Start. So that's the reason why I decided, you know what? I'm going to simplify my dream.
Yeah.
I don't want, as much as I want this high quality TV, for example, Sony, whichever big brands. But there's this one that when you switch on, it comes on.
Yeah.
It is displaying the images that I want. And it is serving me for the period that I'm struggling. When revenue starts making sense, I can always transition to whatever my dreams are. Small wins. So we were able to put up the workshop with very few amounts of money. And the reason I'm telling you small wins also enables you to learn is because, for example, we have a machine called edge banding machines. Edge banding machine, in when you're doing particle boards of MDF, is this machine that's that nice edging on the sides after you've cut the board. I bought a very small semi-automatic machine. I did not know about that machine. I saw it online. So when it came, there are so many things to learn about it. And by the time we were ordering the big commercial machine, I had so much information, what not to order. Because there are some things I realized we could have made a big mistake because we were just telling the Chinese to advise us. Yet we are the users. So I was able to tell them I want a machine that can cut, that can edge, can trim, can buff, can... You see, because there's some things that now are into finishing that I wouldn't have captured if I would just sent a machine without some of those amenities. Or maybe they could have quoted that a machine that has those amenities. Then I complain about the price. They tell me there's also this one. And maybe the difference would be those things that I did not know they'll be compromised. So now that I have taken those small steps and the small wins have enabled me to learn on the things and the type of equipment I want. By the time I'm investing in now this heavy, more expensive equipment, I am getting it correct.
Yeah.
So those small wins sometimes, it's not necessarily a delay of dreaming, also a dream coming true, or a delay of gratification and feeling that you've made it. Not necessarily. It is a process of making and becoming. And then, as we're talking about reset, becoming, metamorphosing to something different can only happen when a process is happening. It can't happen at the end. At the end, and you've made it, basically you can't grow into something different that quickly. You have to be in those steps, and those steps are, if you get into a certain steps, then you realize you get introduced. You know, there's so many things happen during day-to-day life in business that now they're the ones that shape what direction every vision is taking, every short-term goal is taking, every milestone that you want to cover within a period is taking. Yeah. So that would be my advice. I hope I answered your question.
You did.
Yes.
And I love because you bring in a lot of practical stories that people can relate to. And I think in that, small wins are really important. Yeah. It is part of the process of becoming. Just even what you described goes back to our quick cut of you being a very calculated risk taker and me being smart in that. And so I think that's beautiful. I think people just need the opportunity to say, yes, like, I can move forward, and yes, I can change, and it's okay. Like, it's okay. It's not failure. It's not anything. And I describe it in the intro as like recalibration of who we are and where we're going. But thank you so much for being here again.
You're welcome.
I'm sure there will be a 5th episode because I love our chatter, and we could yap all day. But thank you for being a part of Moxie Uncut. And I hope all of you learned so much and just are reminded that, again, reset is not something to be scared of, but is something that we can push into. And so this is Moxie Uncut, the reset season, refining, realigning, and rebuilding. And as always, friends, Moxie on. Thanks for being here with me on Moxie Uncut. If something stayed with you, please pass it on. These stories are meant to be shared. And if you're in a season of rebuilding or becoming, then just keep going. I'll see you here next week.